What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the attic. This week, we'll be looking into UFC 319 to see where the machine learning models have spent my money. First and foremost, we've done it. Since the rollout of V2 in February, we have tripled the bankroll using only a single book. This feels like a huge accomplishment, and my confidence in this project is sky high. I look forward to 5x in the near future, and I hope that you'll come along for the ride. I did a recap for this past weekend as a short, so we'll cruise through the graph and get into the fights. PFL Africa 2 was a glorified regional card, but we still did pretty well. 1.85 units profit on 3 wagers for a 40.7% ROI. Immediately after was UFC Vegas 109, where we risked a ton of money on favorites. Fortunately, they did well and we cashed 11 out of 12 wagers, but still only managed a 19% ROI. As always, we closed out Saturday by accepting the weekly bonus. By this point in time, our unit size was inflated from the weekend's wins, and the bonus only amounted to 0.57 units. This last bonus is just the result of that weird daily reload that I explained last week. I just mashed them all together for now until I find out if this is going to be a recurring thing. We'll be starting this week with the new record high unit size of 3.46. Man, that sounds good. Let's get into the fights. Unfortunately, we have to skip the first fight of the night because somehow this dude made it all the way to the UFC without anybody figuring out how old he is. That metric is just too important to skip, so I can't make any predictions on this fight. Next up, we'll have Dione Barbosa taking on Karine Silva at flyweight. These two are very similar in age, height, and reach, so we don't expect those to have much of an effect. Silva also has a ton more experience, but it seems that the models mostly prefer her high finishing rate. At the books, she's a minus 225 favorite, and the models are all floating around 60% confidence. My money is on Karine Silva for 3.37 units. Our next fight takes place at 185 between Nursultan Ruziboev and Brian Battle. Battle is moving back to middleweight after a couple of weight misses down at 170. These two are both undefeated at middleweight in the UFC, each only losing a single welterweight bout in the promotion. The models have correctly predicted a Ruziboev win twice in the past, but none of them thinks that he gets it done this time. I bet 2.62 units on Brian Battle as a minus 175 favorite. Moving down to lightweight, where Drakkar Klose will welcome Edson Barbosa back to the division. Edson has been down at featherweight since 2020, and he didn't do particularly well with a 4-4 record in the division. In that same time period, Drakkar has a record of 4-2, losing the first and last of those by KO. Klose is a plus 145 underdog at the books, and all 3 models favor him quite heavily. Age, recent losses, and Edson changing weight are probably driving factors for the models. I placed a 1.5 unit wager on Drakkar Klose. Staying at 155 for a bout between Chase Hooper and Alexander Hernandez. Chase is the younger, taller, and longer fighter. He's got a better record and a higher finishing rate. I don't think it's any surprise that the models favor him in this fight. The books have Chase Hooper listed at minus 335, and the prediction models had me place a 5.01 unit wager on him. We've got one more women's MMA fight on this card, this one between Lupita Godinez and Jessica Andrade at strawweight. Looking at the records, my first thought is that Godinez will be looking for a long fight, while Andrade will be looking for a finish. The models are torn on this fight, all of them very close to 50%. In the end, 2 of them lean towards Lupita Godinez, so I've placed a 1.56 unit bet on her at minus 156. We'll be back at middleweight for our next fight when Gerald Meerschaert takes on Mikhail Olenjaychuk. Only 8 of their combined 39 UFC fights have gone the distance. Recently, they have both had a rough time, each only winning 2 of their last 5 and being finished in 2 of their 3 losses. Gerald is the older fighter by 7 years, and at 56 professional fights, he has nearly twice as many as Mikel. All 3 models lean slightly toward Mikel Oleksiejczuk, and the books are on the same side at minus 205. A 3.07 unit wager will return 1.5 units with a win. Does anybody remember when Dana White called this position the prelim main event? This time, the headliners will be the punching bag, formerly known as Bobby Green, versus Diego Ferreira. Surprisingly, Green is the younger fighter in this matchup, with Diego turning 40 earlier this year. Despite being younger, King will have a big edge in experience, although he is 13-12 in the UFC. Fortunately, 2 of the models prefer Diego here, although the outlier is pretty extreme at 61%. I'm not a fan of Green, so I'm happy to be betting Diego Ferreira for 1.49 units at minus 149. The main card for UFC 319 will kick off in the flyweight division with a fight between Tim Elliott and Kai Asakura. Again, we see a prediction that looks pretty straightforward. Kai is younger, with a better record overall, and a higher finishing rate. Most of Kai's recent fights have taken place at 135, but I'm not sure how that affects the models. At the books, Asakura is a minus 300 favorite, and all 3 models agree. I picked him up for 4.5 units. It's starting to feel like half of this card is middleweights. This time, it'll be Michael Venom Page versus Jared Cannonier. This is one of my favorite matchups on this whole card. I'm excited to see 2 veterans from 2 different promotions face off. MVP has a more impressive looking record, but many would argue that Cannonier has fought the tougher opponents. The bookmakers at minus 185 and all 3 models think that MVP is more likely to get it done. I've placed a 2.77 unit wager on Michael Venom Page to win this fight. Jeff Neal will face off against Carlos Prates in our feature bout at welterweight. In Carlos's last outing, the models had me bet against the Fighting Nerds, and somehow it paid off. I think that is a rare occurrence, and I'm glad that the models are back in line. There isn't a huge edge here, with none of the models even making it to 60%, but I've still placed a 3.82 unit wager on Carlos Prates. Our co-main event is a featherweight matchup between Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico. Pico is making his UFC debut on a 3-fight win streak with a 13-4 record in PFL Tour. Murphy is stepping up on only 3 weeks' notice, and he's looking to play spoiler. Despite being 6 years younger and having an incredible finishing rate, the models do not like Pico here. I know that 2025 has stolen a lot of undefeated records, but we also haven't seen many successful UFC debuts either. At the books, Lerone Murphy is a plus 155 underdog, but all 3 models favor him quite heavily. I've got 1.5 units on Murphy leaving with his undefeated record intact. Closing out the night in our main event will be Khamzat Chimaev challenging Dricus du Plessis for the middleweight title. Age, height, and reach are all basically a wash in this fight. DDP will have an advantage in overall experience, but he's 9-0 in the UFC, while Khamzat is already 8-0 in the promotion. They both have a high finishing rate with a good variety of techniques. On paper, this looks to be a very close fight, but the bettors have driven Khamzat up to a minus 200 favorite. The prediction models disagree and have Dricus with a very small edge. I've placed a 1-unit bet on DDP as a plus 185 underdog. That's all the fights on this card, so let's have a quick look at the totals. UFC 319 has 13 fights, and I was able to place wagers on 12 of them. 9 favorites made the cut, with 7 of them upscaled to 1.5 units. The other 3 were underdogs, and 2 of those earned a 1.5 times multiplier also. Our risk on this card stayed quite low at only 32.18 units, and we could earn a respectable profit of 18.81 units. This week has a lot more action to come, so make sure you check out the Patreon for free PFL, LFA, and One Championship plays. As always, thanks for watching and good luck on all of your bets this weekend.